And so what came through so freaking clearly for me was there is no maybes. And I think for a while I allowed that part of me who is decisive, is clear, the healed masculine side of you, which is a very, very important piece of who you are. I took that offline thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to be too much of a man because then how would I attract a masculine man? And it's like, in that I wasn't being clear. I was allowing people close to me that should never have had access to be that close to me. And I'm like, what happened by being in my feminine over the top without the union of the masculine within me being online also? It's like you overgive, you become a martyr. You overgive, you overendure, you do too much, you give too much, and in that you're depleting yourself. There are only yeses and nos. And the only way you get to a place that you can actually understand what a yes feels like and a no feels like in your body is to get to know yourself, your truth, your power, your essence. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expand and Evolve podcast. If you've never been here before, my name is Carly Pynchon, and I'm so excited that you're here. I have been going through some serious internal transitions. And if you have listened to my podcast, I started it a couple of years ago, and it's called Expand and Evolve. And my whole purpose of this podcast is to really just go into what I am moving through, topics that I care about, and ultimately sharing my journey and my truth out loud with all of you. In that, I was just at a relationship intensive, a 3-day relationship intensive. Before even attending this relationship intensive, I could feel a lot moving. And whether it was the timing of the relationship intensive, if it's what's going on energetically, if it's collective consciousness, like whatever is moving and going on, it was a lot. And I want to kind of take you through some of my biggest key takeaways that I had that I'll be able to share with you just in terms of like things that I am feeling and moving through and whatever. And then I'm going to take you through some of my notes because I think that some of the things that I wrote down from the intensive could be really helpful in your own relationship journey. So with that, one of the biggest things that I just wanted to start with is as I was going through this big transition these last few weeks, and I can feel stuff moving and shifting. And the reason that I started this podcast a few years ago, I have been expanding and evolving. I have been growing. I've grown a lot. And to go through what felt like another ego death was almost shocking because it was like, wait, what? Like I thought I'd been through the depths and the hardest parts of meeting myself and my soul, and like, who would think that this would just randomly come up? And so I guess I'm sharing that to share with you that this journey of evolving into your highest self, I guess you could say, it's ever evolving. There's not really a moment of arrival. And for some people, I think they may be happy just being who they are, living the same kind of loop of a life over and over and over again, and living their entire lives that way. Maybe unaware, or it's not their soul's journey to go on this path. But if you have chosen a path where you are committed to growth, you're committed to evolving into the best version of you, the highest version of you, the most true version of you, there's going to be difficult seasons. And even when you feel like you've gone through the hardest pieces and parts of your life, there's going to be more. And for me, what that looked like was, okay, like when I started this program with Danny Morrell, his Inner Circle program, this was over 3 years ago. A big part then was like, okay, I want to make more money, and like, I'm going to find my dream partner, and I'm going to have a nice big house, and I'm going to achieve all my dreams and my goals because like I can create whatever I want and I can manifest whatever I want. And if I'm the creator of my life, then I can have whatever I want. I'm going to declare everything I want. And it was all things that I wanted. And what I feel like I'm going through right now is the true, because I'm detached, but like I feel I'm more grounded, solid now. But a few weeks ago, I was at this place where I was like, I don't care about anything. I was so detached. I think what was happening was all of these parts of me that maybe used to endure a lot, used to overperform, used to be everyone's caregiver, used to be the one that everyone could depend on. And I was happy to carry that role. So an example, like my parents, for example, I had this desire to be able to take care of them and like not have them have stress. And like, I'll put all the financial stress on me because they had financial stress when I was younger and like, I don't want them to have that anymore. So I'll take it. With my ex, like, don't worry if this is going on. Like, don't worry. Like, I'll help you. I'll take it. And in different situations, like people needing money, for example, people needing me to move through a divorce because they don't have anyone else to offer them support. And I'm talking to them 8 hours out of the day, supporting them through all of that at the expense of myself. And what I feel like I had start showing up was like my friend called me. This was the unraveling before the relationship intensive. My friend called me and she was like, hey, what's going on? Like she could tell something was off. And I was like, oh, I'm good. Like, when it's like your mom asks, are you okay? And you're like, ugh, like you just like lose it. And so I can't remember what she asked me, but I just broke. I started bawling my eyes out. I couldn't stop. It was like an hour where no matter what, I was like, oh my God, there's people around and this is so embarrassing. I'm in the middle of the forest. I can't stop crying. Like, what is happening? And how I can explain it now is like, I feel like the part of me, the ego, really, like we all have layers of the ego, the part of me that felt maybe like it was my duty to care for other people and be the dependent or the dependable person, the one that everyone could rely on, the one that everyone could lean on, the one that, oh, you can't pick up the financial slack. Don't worry, I got it. Don't worry, I got it. Like, I'll help you. I'll help you. That's what I exist for, right? Is to just help others. That part of me, I feel like had to die, where I no longer am getting purpose necessarily from it. And I think because it's like, it came from a place of, I wasn't even aware of the weight that it was putting on me to do that, if that makes sense. And I feel like for the first time ever, it showed me, whoa, this is like a really heavy weight that you're carrying that I don't even think you're aware that you're carrying it. And so it had to come to my awareness for me to go, holy, okay, wow, I do a lot of stuff for people selflessly and at the expense of myself by doing that. And I think what it was showing me was like, you need to get really hyper aware of what drains your energy, what takes your energy, what feels like an invisible weight on you. Because ultimately, as women, when we're not aware of that, that's what leads to and manifests to disease later in life in our bodies. And that's why so many people deal with autoimmune and like people are getting diagnosed with MS or cancer. I'm like, this is all invisible weight and pressure because we're not being supported a lot of the time or we're not facing our deepest truths. So disease is just there as a wake-up call, but we see it as something separate, like, oh my God, this is happening to me. What's wrong? It's like your body is your vessel. It's been trying to talk to you, but we weren't listening. And so interestingly enough, I have never felt like this was a heavy weight. I carried this without complaint or even feeling like it was hard. And so only recently was it like, oh, I feel like there's this part of me that now, like, I actually don't want to be the one who everyone depends on and leans on. Am I still going to be dependable and someone people can lean on? Yes, but not at the expense of myself. Is this making sense? So there's a difference of like, wow, it's a Saturday. I have lots of space and time and something happens in your life and I'm going to be there for you. And then there's a difference of like, now I've skipped the gym. I've skipped taking care of myself. I've skipped being there for myself. I've skipped eating for myself. I've taken on financial stress for you. And I'm giving and there isn't the reciprocal nature. So I think what it was showing me was like all these places that I've been like giving and providing and serving and helping. If there isn't that infinity loop of like, okay, I'm giving, but what am I receiving back? There has to be an equal energy exchange or it almost becomes like debt. And that's what I feel like was shifting for me was like, yes, you can want to give and yes, you can want to be someone that people can depend on, but not at the expense of yourself without an equal energy exchange in return. And I feel like that's what was leaving. And the part of me who has the successful business or did all these things for people. Like maybe there was a sense of pride still in that that needed to go away. And maybe my practice of detachment. It's like I can have a successful business, but it doesn't define who I am. I can be able to take care of others, but it isn't like I take care of my family. Like, it was like all of that I feel like was falling away to, yes, I can have the successful business, but I don't need it. And I think that's where I've really come to, and what happened in the relationship intensive was like the need for all of these things outside of me, I feel like is gone. And what was crazy is every time at the beginning of our relationship intensive, we write down our wins, our wants, and what we're working on. And when I was writing my wants, we're at a relationship intensive, right? And it was like for the first time, I'm like, yeah, of course, like having a partner, but it doesn't mean what it used to. So like when I first started doing this work and like started in this program and I wanted to call him my dream partner because like, oh my God, I just want a beautiful relationship because I'm all these things. And it was like from a need and a want. And now I feel like I'm in this place where I'm like, I am so good right now within myself. And I know I've thought I felt this before, but this is like a whole new level where for the first time I didn't feel like I needed it. Like I didn't feel like I wanted to write down like, oh my God, I want to call in my dream partner. I almost felt like I had to write it down because like, well, I'm at a relationship intensive, right? Like, shouldn't this be something I want? But for the first time, I was like, I don't really care. And so what I actually wrote down was to allow myself for my wants, to allow myself to move through any unconscious parts of me that could be holding me back from creating beautiful relationships and me being my most present and powerful self. This is wild because I forgot I wrote that. But throughout the weekend, it's wild because the last intention I set was before we went into our last ceremony was I choose to stand in my truth, my power, and my essence, no matter what it costs. Meaning I was ready to let go of anything and everything holding me back from standing in my true truth, power, and essence. And in that, I cannot explain it, but it's like I had the realization that I don't need to be seen and acknowledged by anyone because I'm finally seen and acknowledged by me. And I don't know if that's going to land, but it's like the part of you that wants external validation, the part of you that wants someone to tell you that they're proud of you, the part of you that wants to just be seen and acknowledged, like to be told you're beautiful, to be validated that you're the best or you're amazing or you're so incredible. Like that's all because you haven't found an internal piece where you actually see that about yourself. And for the first time ever, I feel like I don't really have a need or a want outside of me. So it's interesting because it's like we want things and we want to progress and we want to evolve. And like, would having my house project that I'm working on come to fruition and completion be amazing? Yes. But I don't need it to. Like finding the relationship, I don't really need it to. Like I feel so freaking whole and content within me that I don't have a need for it. Is this making sense? And that's such a different energy to move through life in. And what's wild is at the beginning of this year, I said one of my words I wrote down were either anchored or rooted. I think I wrote down both. And lately people have been telling me like, I can't explain it. Like you feel like a tree. You're so grounded. You're so rooted. I just want to be around your energy. Like I feel so calm when I'm near you. And the reason I know people feel this is because I am in such a state of deep presence. It's like it's really hard to explain because I understand what it feels like to have a hyperactive, overactive mind that's like worried and trying to figure it out. And like, what about this? And I'm like, my mind is quiet. Can I think about a lot of stuff? Of course. But like, I don't even know like how to resonate with being in a state of like serious overwhelm and worry and all these things. I'm like, I'm just detached from all of it. Okay. Let's say I lost my business tomorrow, I'm like, whatever. I trust that I'm taken care of. If I lost my house, for example, and I'm not calling these in, by the way. So words are spelled. I'm just saying there's this part of me that used to think like, oh, well, I need the house and I need to like be doing more and I need to make more money and I need to make sure my business is good. And like, like think of that energy versus I am so good with literally who I am right now in this moment. I feel so fulfilled and also whole that I actually don't need anything outside of me. And what's crazy is like every moment, if you struggle with food, I'm telling you, when you understand that every time you're disconnected from yourself, you're the most disempowered version of yourself. When you bring back that deep connection to self, it's wild because every time I do this, let's say it's through ceremony or meditation or journaling or even writing this, like writing, reading, talking on this podcast, I'm so connected to my innermost world and thoughts, right? And because of that, like the need for things outside of you goes away. So if you struggle with food, for example, It's typically an escapism. You're like, "Oh my god, like, I feel overwhelmed, like I need something." You're like grasping. And I think what I've become hyper aware of is when people are trying to grasp at me. So they don't feel whole and fulfilled within themselves. They grasp at me. They want my energy. They want my power. They want a piece of me to try to fill themselves up. And I'm like so hyper aware now of that. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? And it's like, I have allowed a lot of people in my life who do that to me. And now that I'm so hyper aware of it, because I said I want to stand in my truth, power, and essence, I can feel within me. I feel like the most, it was almost like while I was at the street, I was like, it was like Queen of Sheba, like queen energy, where I was like, I feel so protected, but in a beautiful way, not guarded, like, oh, stay away from me, you could hurt me. Protected. Like I feel so safe within myself that the needs of anything are gone. The need for food where you're like, "Oh my god, like I'm hungry and I could eat this and I want to like sweet treat." Obviously, I still have cravings, all that stuff. But like what I'm saying is when you feel completely connected within yourself, every time I'm deeply connected to myself, I don't need anything. I don't have a craving. I don't have a wanting. You feel whole and fulfilled and complete within you. And this is such a beautiful place to be. But in my unraveling before the relationship intensive to now, I feel like what was really showing up for me was like the masculine and feminine energetics and everything that's online about like, if you want a masculine man, you need to be a feminine woman. And like, if you need a masculine man, if you're a woman, like you need a man to lead, you need a man to do this and that and da da da. All the noise that's on social media about masculine and feminine dynamics. To be honest, what I feel like this relationship intensive showed me was being in your feminine is not just nurturing and allowing and being soft and open. Those things are great. But honestly, if you're only that, that is little girl energy. And a woman in her queen and her power isn't open to everything, isn't nurturing and loving to everybody, isn't willing to be open and give her heart to anybody. No, a woman who is whole is also complete in her masculine, which means she knows what not to allow. She knows what boundaries to have around her heart, not out of protection, of like guarded protection, out of like, that's not right for me. So, no, I'm not going to give you all of me. That doesn't feel good to me. So, I'm not going to actually give you access to me. You are fiercely guarding and protecting yourself because you understand how freaking amazing and worthy and incredible you are. And then when you understand that about yourself, you don't just give access, love, nurturing, and allowance to everything and anything. You have clarity. You are in your power. You are in your truth, which is, I feel, the feminine. The feminine is power. So I feel I almost thought for a little while, it was like, oh, for me to be in my feminine, I need to be like open to every situation and every circumstance and like just allow it to all happen. And in that, I wasn't in my power. So there is a sacred union, not just between two people, but within yourself of understanding. Isn't that funny? It's like a heart comes together when you, anyway, where it's like you can be loving and nurturing and allowing and open and free and expressive and expansive and all of these amazing things that are feminine. And the feminine is also literally mama bear, power, rage, clarity. Like that's not necessarily masculine. It doesn't make you a man. And I think for a while I allowed that part of me who is decisive, is clear, the healed masculine side of you, which is a very, very important piece of who you are. I took that offline thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to be too much of a man because then how would I attract a masculine man? And it's like in that I wasn't being clear. I was allowing people close to me that should never have had access to be that close to me. I was not guarding and protecting my own heart, which is sacred and should, like, the majority of people shouldn't have access to it. And so I was overgiving. And I'm like, what happened by being in my feminine over the top without the union of the masculine within me being online also? It's like you overgive, you become a martyr. You overgive, you overendure, you do too much, you give too much. And in that, you're depleting yourself. That is not feminine. We've been sold that. But I'm like, when you go back in time and you look at a queen, for example, what is she doing? She's sitting on her throne in her power, in her truth, in her essence, sitting there. And it's like, she's 100% clear. She is not like, oh, all the men, what do you guys think I should do? My million soldiers out there, what do you think I should do? What? And it doesn't make her masculine that she's decisive and knows. It's like, this is what needs to happen, and I command you. And you don't need to be like that. You can still be loving and caring. But what I'm trying to say is, you as the woman, we have the gift of an incredible intuitive power to know exactly what we need, exactly what we want. And what showed up for me at this relationship intensive was, oh my God, now that my power is back online, like, yes, I can be loving and nurturing, and my heart is so big and so amazing and so loving and so giving. Yes, I have that piece of me. And that means that I need to keep it so close that not everyone deserves access to that, because it's going to leave me being hurt. I need to care and protect it. Okay. So in that, it was like, there is no maybes. So when you listen to all this stuff online, it's like, oh, being and you're feminine, you just allow and you're just open. But in that, guess what I was doing? I was being open and being like, oh, I don't know. Like, maybe I don't know what's best for me. Maybe they know better. Maybe they know. Like, maybe I should listen to that. I let go of the power and clarity within me that knows what a yes feels like and what a no feels like. And I was like, maybe other people know best. And so what came through so freaking clearly for me was, there is no maybes. There are only yeses and nos. And the only way you get to a place that you can actually understand what a yes feels like and a no feels like in your body is to get to know yourself, your truth, your power, your essence. When you can stand in that, you understand, that feels like a no. That feels like a yes. A yes, you instantly want to lean into. A no, even the slightest bit of resistance is like, can you trust yourself? Because if you're whole and complete, you have your feminine, yes, but you also have the power of your masculine within you, which is clear, like so freaking clear and grounded and present and all knowing, like it's truth. And when you understand that, what I found was, I was allowing a lot of maybes that were no's for me. I knew it was a no, but I thought, to be in my feminine, I must be like open and allow. And it's like, yes, and you don't want to be rigid, right? But it was like, in this wrestling, I guess you could say, with like bringing this part of me back online, all I could think about when I was like, oh my God, there is no maybes, there's only yeses or nos, that I was thinking of the queen. And if she's sitting on her throne and someone came up to her with a command, she would be like, no or yes. And if it was a yes, she would have the men, the masculine, go do and execute that thing while she sat there. And I guess why I'm sharing this is because I'm really feeling like, in this moment, and I haven't been in a relationship yet to know that this to be true, but I feel like the men in our lives, they live to provide and serve for you as a woman, right? Like, they actually get fulfillment from this. They love this and they find fulfillment in that. And so if you as the woman don't have your masculine online that's clear, can give clear direction, clearly communicate your needs, your wants, your desires, they're lost. So just like the queen sitting there with her army, let's say of a million soldiers, she's just like, I don't know. I don't really know what I feel like. I'm not really sure what I want. I don't really feel like I can communicate what I need. If you guys are watching, I'm like acting like a little girl, like doesn't know anything because I'm just a little girl in my feminine. Like, no, they're going to be like, wait, what? They're going to be looking around each other like, what does she want? What does she need? They don't know. They can't read her mind. Like, you as the woman need to be the one that's like, this is what I need. This is what I want, because I know myself. I know what's important to me. I know my own wants, desires, and needs because I'm me. You have to get to know yourself for that. To know, like, hey, this is what I need. This is what I want. And then can you communicate clearly? Because a man needs clear communication to understand what they're meant to go execute, like clear instructions. And I think as women, sometimes we resist that because we like, well, if you know me and you love me, you should just know. they're not a woman. They won't. And I feel like in what's happening online, it's like, you need to find a masculine man who can lead you. And I'm like, what if men aren't actually meant to lead the full charge? Like, what if they need the woman's input of clear communication, clear needs, clear desires, and then they go lead the charge because you've given them exactly what you need. They're like, oh, amazing, task in front of me. I can go do this thing. Like, you need to, let's say, have sex 3 times a week. They're like, got it. 3 times a week. Brr. Like, that's how they function. And I think so many relationships are in turmoil because the advice out there is not necessarily beneficial to how men and women actually work. And if women are trying to be like, oh, I'm too masculine, there's a difference of being in your masculine and your power and being hypercritical and not being kind and loving. You can be clear and direct in your communication of what you need while still being loving, nurturing, kind, and a woman. Like, you could say like, hey, I really, I don't know. I'm just giving an example. Like, let's say you need the trash taken out because it makes you feel loved and appreciated or something like that, or like takes the stress off of your plate. I don't know. Think of anything. It's like, if you can clearly communicate that, you can do it in a loving way. That's not going to make you masculine for clearly communicating a need. That makes you an empowered woman who's communicating what they need. Anyways, I just like, it really had me thinking, like, what if this whole thing about like, you need to find a man to lead is like, maybe what if they need us too? And this is what I really believe about like true divine sacred union is men and women need each other. Whether you're whatever type of dynamic you're in and relationship you're in, you guys need each other. So yes, the man can take initiative and control and ownership and lead and all that. But a lot of the time, like, our woman's intuition and our feeling inside our body, when we really truly know ourselves, we know what's going to be best and what's going to work. And what if you're meant to give your input? And like, that's what creates this beautiful relationship is like, you can say what you think needs to happen and then they go execute it for you. Because the woman, what I'm feeling is we really aren't meant to like do 10 million things. Like, it's too much for us. I feel like a lot of women are hitting burnout. And I feel like that's what was hitting me is like, we're tired. The feminine, the women are tired. We need our men. We need them to step up. We need them to be, showing up for us. We need them to be taking initiative and action. But what if we're expecting them to just know how to figure that out rather than giving them the clear direction of what we actually need? And if we gave them that clear direction, then our relationships would be so much better. My kids just ran over, and so I had to stop the podcast to go talk to them. Anyways, in terms of, honestly, I feel like because I was interrupted, that was like the perfect segue to just cut that podcast off completely. This is going to be the ending of it. If you want support tapping into your empowered feminine, I do have a course called the Empowered Feminine course. So we will link that in the show notes. And I'm actually going to do my recap of the entire intensive with all of my notes in a part 2. So see this as the part 1 that I went over everything in regards to like the shifts that I was moving through, no longer wanting to necessarily be everyone's dependent, understanding that there's disempowerment actually in believing like you need to be feminine and not rooted in your own masculine essence also as a woman, because like you're meant to be powerful. Like that's you as a woman. You're meant to be so powerful. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's interesting because a friend had said to me at the they're like, well, there's no space for us. It was one of my guy friends. He was like, well, there'd be no space for us because you're not open. And I was like, no. It's not that I'm not open. I have been open. I have allowed. I have created the space. And ultimately, I'm at a place in my life right now where like, I really trust I know what's best for me. I think there was a season where I was like, well, maybe they know more, they know better, like they might have more knowledge. And I think as you go on this journey of evolving and growing into the most authentic version of you, what you understand is like your curriculum here in this life school is unique. It's not the same as anybody else. So even the advice I'm giving to you or like me sharing my journey, that is up to you to feel into like what feels like truth to you, what resonates. And some pieces may not because our journeys are not the same. So like I'm going to have experiences where this is 1000% my truth, my reality of like, quote unquote, the right choice for me. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right choice for you because our journeys are different. So when you start to understand that, it's like, yes, take in knowledge from other people or wisdom from other people. But ultimately, you get to a place where you understand like nobody actually knows better than you do for what's best for you. So even in situations that have been difficult, let's say in like different relationships, before I jump into these notes, and I'll do that in part two. But when I reflect on certain relationship dynamics where people on the outside may have seen it in a certain way and been like, why would you even entertain that? It's like I'm entertaining it, obviously not because I'm dumb. It's because there's curriculum here and things I need to move through and soul lessons. So even though it might not make sense to somebody else, if you abruptly cut something off before the lessons have been learned, you're going to call that in again in another relationship. And I think there's so much power in understanding that like every relationship dynamic needs to be transmuted in order to actually have that like thread of energy and that pull and connection fall away. And that looks like you standing in your truth, you speaking up for what you really want and desire. And if you guys listen to a few podcasts back where like I had to be wildly vulnerable with the last like situation I was in, really almost an almost relationship. It's like I had to step into my power by speaking my truth, being wildly vulnerable. And that was me being in my essence, like communicating my needs, my desires, my wants. And ultimately, because they couldn't be met, our dynamic completely fell away without this like pull. And the reason that that was able to just kind of disintegrate into nothingness was because I learned my lesson. Like I had to, my lesson in that was like, can you find your power again and understand that that doesn't make you a man to stand in your truth, your power, and your essence? That is something that you need to be so like that's something you should be proud of. Like no matter if you're a man or a woman, you need to be able to communicate your needs, your desires, your wants, your power, your truth, your essence. And that was literally what I wrote as my intention on the last day of the relationship intensive was to stand in my truth, power, and essence no matter what it costs. And that's my commitment moving forward. So if that means that certain people need to fall out of my life because when I speak my truth for me and not out of like a, be like, I'm seeking my truth. So like, you don't have space for it. No, not like that. Like there's a difference of like really being in your truth and it's coming from a caring, loving place of honoring yourself and taking care of yourself versus being like, well, it's just my truth. So you don't want me to speak you guys, you feel the difference? And just being mindful of that. And I feel like that was my biggest lesson was to stop enduring situations that like my needs were not being met in. And by me speaking up about it, we had an amazing conversation. I don't know if I ever updated that, but we had this incredible conversation about it. This was a few months ago. And I haven't felt this pull. But when we hadn't had that conversation, we kept getting pulled back to each other. And it was like this tension. And the tension was there because there was things left unsaid. And now that I've said everything, I don't feel like there's anything left unsaid. So it allows it to transmute and the energy is clear and open for whatever's meant to come next. Yeah. So I think I'm going to leave it with that. I'm going to start a whole other podcast episode now where I actually go and take you through my notes, because if you have been in relationship before, everyone is in relationship and relating to people all of the time. I think these are going to be really valuable, but it's going to be more like step by step, my notes that I wrote down and then elaborate on them. So that's going to be part 2 of my learnings and my teachings and my lessons from the relationship intensive. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for listening. Send this to somebody if you think it would be helpful for them. Ultimately, my biggest takeaways in this one were there is no maybes. There's only yeses and nos, and it's your job to figure out what a yes and no feels like within you. The masculine feminine dynamics thing, it doesn't make you masculine to stand in your power. A queen knows her worth, her power, her essence, her truth, and she stands in that. And I don't remember the rest, but those are the 2 most important ones. So, and I don't want to be the one that everyone depends on. And I think that part of me had to die in order to be like able to welcome and support for whoever's meant to come in my life next and be able to help and support me and me not be able to have to carry it all. And you know what I learned from that is if you never show that you need support, no one knows to support you. And the minute that I like had a breakdown and I was saying that I'm so overwhelmed, that I'm so done carrying everything, like people reached out, they were willing to help. They wanted to drop me off food. They wanted to bring me flowers. And I was like, ooh, this is so beautiful. And I was like, dang, I don't know if I've ever shown ever in my life I needed support. So how could anyone support me? And anyways, it was a big like aha moment. So if you're the strong one that has it all handled, it's kind of like when you have the kids and there's the one kid who never needs anything because they're so independent. You don't think to offer them support because they're not helpless. But even the people who don't need help still need support. And sometimes we don't know how we need support. So to offer it, even though it doesn't may not look like they need it, is always welcomed. So thank you guys so much for listening. If you want a course to take you through everything about becoming the empowered feminine, I take you through menstrual cycles. I take you through just masculine and feminine energetics, what it really means. Like I have a whole course that I created about that. A few years ago. And I just recently looked through it and it is still really good. And it helps you if you feel like you're hyper masculine, hyper driven, hyper overachiever, and you're like, but how do I reconnect with my feminine? This course is really good at teaching you to do's to reconnect with that side of yourself. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in the next episode.